Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Newman City Council Redevelopment Agency regular meeting of November 8th, 2011. Please stand for the pledge. Ready to begin? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Hutchins.
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity that we have tonight. Lord, we just ask that you'll be with us. Just help us make good decisions for the city. Thank you for the crowd that's here tonight. And we just ask you'll be with us. And we ask this all in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Davis.
Present.
Hutchins.
Present.
Candia.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Martina.
Present.
Mayor Casey.
Present. Okay, we'll go to item 5, declaration of conflicts of interest. Seeing none, we'll go to item 6, ceremonial matters. A is presentation of the county librarian, Vanessa, annual report for fiscal year 2010-2011. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, good evening, council members. I'm Vanessa Zopek. I'm UR County Librarian. And thank you for allowing me some time to speak with you this evening. I'm here to report on library activities for fiscal year 10-11 and to talk about the library as a necessity and a vital community resource. Before I get started, have you noticed that it seems like everybody's always asking you for money lately? Yeah, really? In fact, I'd like to have $1 for the library, please. Really. Just $1. Thank you. It's obvious they're paying you too much, right? Well, here are a few questions for everyone. I'd just like a show of hands, please. How many of you have internet access at home? Yeah, all right, very good. And how many of you have broadband access? Just a few people. Okay. What does that cost you per month? I mean, usually it's about $40 to $80. Isn't that about right? Something like that. Okay. How many of you subscribe to satellite or cable TV? Yeah. And what does that cost you per month?
Too much.
Maybe, yeah. $60 upward, depending on what kind of channels you get. How many of you got cell phones? Oh, you know you do, yes. We're all addicted to the cell phones.
Smartphone.
And what does that cost you per month? Well, depending upon whether you have a personal or a family plan, it can be $30 to $150 or more. And how many of you have been using Netflix? You know Netflix? Yep, for the movies. What does that cost per month? Actually, nobody really knows because Netflix just keeps changing their prices over and over and over again. But the point of this is, what does these expenditures do for your community? What do they do for your community? And that's a rhetorical question because the answer is nothing. They don't do anything. So then what do you think that the average person spends on their library nationwide per month? It's $2.68. Yes. And in Stanislaus County, where we have 13 libraries, they're supported by a 1/8 cent dedicated sales tax. The cost is $1.66 per month, or about $20 per year per household. And this tax, which has supported our libraries since 1995, is 87% of the library's budget. And it's up for renewal in June of 2012. So no funds come from the cities. Nothing. Funding's local. And we get a little bit from the state, which is shrinking all the time, and we get some from the county. So you may be hearing people say, oh, my costs, my taxes, they're way too high. Well, I can guarantee it's not because of your public library. Now, if the tax failed, then probably we would have no libraries in this county at all. I'd like to tell you a short story. Justin was a young blue-collar worker, and he was very frustrated with the Department of Employment because it seemed to him that they didn't have time to help him with his resume and his job applications. So he came to the library. But his computer skills were so rusty that it took him 2 hours to do his resume and the applications. Because it was a slow evening, our librarian gave him personal help, and she gave him a guest pass to extend his time online. And with her help, Justin was able to complete his paperwork in just 10 minutes. And he said he was so grateful. And then he proved it 3 weeks later when he came back with 2 red roses because Justin had gotten a job as an electrician. Now, a lot of people are losing their jobs in the valley because business is down. We're in the middle of a horrendous recession. But when the economy takes a hit, our libraries are busier than ever because libraries mean business. And whether it's helping people write resumes and apply for jobs, or people launching their own small businesses, or growing their businesses, Stanislaus County libraries are assisting in the economic recovery because libraries mean business. I'd like to tell you another story. When Josh was 3 years old, he started to stutter. A lot of smart kids do. It's a brain synchronization issue where, the mind goes faster than the mouth, and then it takes a little while to sort things out. And if you saw the movie The King's Speech, then you know what this can do to self-esteem. So when Josh started first grade, he was just learning to read. And his mother brought him to one of the programs at the library, and also to check out books. And while he was at the library, he saw a program. It was letting children read to a dog. And he was fascinated with this. Now, all the dogs are therapy dogs. And so Josh begged his mother, please let him sign up and do it. And when he began to read to the dog, he got stuck. He stammered so badly that he couldn't finish, and his mother watched him in anguish. Josh stopped, and he started again, and he stared at the dog, and he felt embarrassed and angry. And the dog looked back with patience and calmness, and it put a paw on Josh's leg. And Josh calmed down, and he started reading again. And he did much better. And that was a turning point for him. He came back and he read to that dog many, many times. And he went to a speech therapist. And when he started 4th grade, he got a part in the school play because Josh doesn't stutter anymore. And so our libraries are a necessity, and they do change lives. Well, although we had to reduce staff and hours last fiscal year, our libraries are busier than ever. In fiscal year 10-11, out of the 781,000 items in the system, there were 2.2 million items that were checked out. And then there were another 500,000 additional items that were used within the libraries. There were more than 195,000 computer sessions. There were 1.8 million web page uses and almost 2,000 programs for children and families attended by more than 71,000 people. 13,500 children and teens and adults participated in the annual summer reading program. And this is vital for keeping children's reading skills current over the summer. 1,457 students were tutored in adult literacy, which is a critical program because in our county, 1/4 to 1/3 of the population is functionally illiterate. Yes, you heard that right. 1/4 to 1/3. System-wide, 69% of the population has a library card. And here in Newman, it's 71%, or 7,236 people with library cards. Locally, 37,519 items were checked out. And then there were 4,939 computer sessions and 91 programs attended by 1,455 people. 318 participated in the summer reading program, and 631 attended storytime classes, which teach pre-reading and pre-literacy skills. So what does this mean? It means that our community values the uniquely American nature of our libraries as places that exist to level the playing field in the provision of information free of charge to all. And it means that when you come to one of our 13 libraries, you can quench your thirst for knowledge, you can get help for your job search, you can take an adult literacy class or become a literacy tutor, you can learn to use computers or join a book discussion group. And your children and your grandchildren can come to any branch for early literacy programs, or they can use vast resources for homework assignments. And of course, you can borrow books and CDs and DVDs and return them to any branch, because we deliver all of this and more for free. It means that we make more loans than a bank, are as addictive as chocolate, and are more magical than Hogwarts. It also means that we guaranteed everyone who comes in a free handheld wireless reading device. And it's right here. It's called a library card. You've probably seen one, or hopefully you have one. And for some people, it's the most important piece of plastic in their wallets. You know, in the past few years, there have been big studies done about ROI, return on investment of libraries. You know, what do you get for your tax dollars? And these studies have been done all over the country. And here's what they found. Oh, I'll get back to you for donating that dollar. Thank you very much. It's a big help. Because investing in your community is what good citizens do. And so you pay your dues with this 1/8 of a cent sales tax. So thank you very much. But here's another dollar. Libraries pay for staff, and they're part of your community. And staff buy groceries and use dentists and pharmacies, and they purchase furniture and car repairs and insurance. So we're your neighbors. I mean, you pay our salaries, we pay yours right back. And here's another dollar. Libraries pay for a lot of direct services locally. We hire painters and carpet layers and sign makers, and we purchase supplies like printer paper and light bulbs and toilet paper. And here's another dollar. Because did you know that public libraries make great anchor stores? It's true that we generate traffic all day long. And studies have shown that when people come to use the library, they also go to other places around town and spend about $20 locally. So that's just part of their trip. So the library actually brings money into the community. And here's one more dollar. Because most people in Stanislaus County spend about $20 per year, or the cost of one hardback book for their libraries, through the 1/8 of a cent dedicated sales tax. And that $20 results in your access to literally hundreds of thousands of books and magazines and CDs and DVDs and computer resources. I mean, more than even the wealthiest person could afford. So you may have thought you were just an altruist, just giving away your money to the library. but you gave up $1 and you're walking out with 4 extra. And that's exactly what those return on investment studies show is true for most library supporters. Because libraries are a smart investment. We're investing in our future and in our children's future by supporting our local libraries. And as the late television news anchor Walter Cronkite once said, whatever the cost of our libraries, the price is cheap compared to that of an ignorant nation. Well, would you like this money back? Or are you donating it to the library? Okay, he's so good. Well, in closing and before introducing your local branch manager and your Friends of the Library president, I just would like to ask you for your endorsement of the library's 1/8 of a cent sales tax election that's coming up in June. I know that's the next thing on the agenda, so I want to thank you right now for that. Who we have with us this evening is Wayne Philbrook, and he's your local branch manager. He's going to speak for a moment about what's going on in the Newman Library currently, and also we have our Friends of the Library president, Cressy Maurer, and she's going to speak to you as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Good evening again. My name is Wayne Philbrook, and I am your branch manager for the Newman Library. And this is my chance to take a moment and let you know about the programs that are available for the next coming month. Storytime has resumed. We took a month off, and the current session will continue through the end of January. We have preschool story times every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, where we read stories, we sing songs, we dance, and we have a wonderful time. We have a family game night coming up on Tuesday, November the 15th from 5:30 to 7 in the library community room. We will have a Nintendo Wii, we will have Rock Band, a number of board games and card games available for all who want to attend. We have a children's craft project coming up on Tuesday, December 6th. We'll be making dogs and cats out of yarn. And once again, these free programs are brought to you by the 1/8 cents dedicated sales tax that supports the library. I'd like to introduce Cressy Maurer, our Friends of the Newman Library president.
Good evening, council members. Most of you already know me. I'm Cressy Maurer. I'm the president of the Friends of the Newman Library. Just want to update you a little bit on all the things that we're doing to try to help our library locally here in Newman, our branch. We've been doing a lot of fundraising. I had an electronic waste drive on Route 33, October 1st. We gathered 15,000 pounds of electronic junk, which translates to 10 cents a pound for the library. So we should shortly be getting between $1,000 to $1,400 that'll go directly to the library. And we just had a used book sale, which we made just short of $700. So that will also be going directly to the library. So in the last fiscal year, so between June of 2010 and June of 2011, we gave $1,500 to the library, and we'll shortly be giving another $750 to our library. So we're really focusing on raising money, both to make up for the budget shortfalls, but also to raise money for the Save Stanislaus Library ballot measure in 2012. Because if that ballot measure does not pass, we will not only not have a library in Newman, we won't have any libraries in the county. So we're really focused on that. And that's going to be our next big push. We're going to be setting up tables in Nob Hill, knocking on doors, really trying to recruit local volunteers and get voter turnout, because that ballot measure has to pass by 66%. And it's not a new tax. This is, 1/8 of a cent on a dollar. So it's something that we're going to be working toward. We are also have done things like we have an adult book club called the West Side Literati. And this coming month, we're going to be reading Reckless Endangerment, which is a novel on the role of Wall Street in the housing crisis, which I thought was a very relevant book for this local area. So anyway, if anyone's interested in the Friends group and what we're doing, you can just email us at friendsofnewmanlibrary@gmail.com. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on. Before we get to item B, I'd just like to take a minute to make a little introduction. Our reigning Miss Newman, Adriana, is with us this evening. Thank you for being here with us. No, you can if you want. You want to talk? No. I just wanted to acknowledge you being here. Thanks so much for coming. Okay, now we'll go to item B. Badge pinning of Reserve Officer Richard Watts. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the newest member of the Newman Police Department family. That's Richard Eric Watts, and I'll refer to him as Eric from here on out because that's what he goes by. So Eric Watts is married to Valerie Watts, standing back there taking pictures. That's not allowed. He is a Turlock High School graduate, graduated in 1996. In 2005, he put himself through the police academy. Eric is currently working at Westside Ambulance, where he is the assistant director for Westside Ambulance. Eric has been employed with Westside Ambulance for the past 10 years. He started as an EMT. He then completed his paramedic training and stayed on as a paramedic, and he recently was promoted to assistant director. He also is a fire captain. We won't hold that against him either for the Gustine Volunteer Fire Department. He's confused a little bit. And prior to working, this is not his first venture into law enforcement. Prior to the Newman Police Department, he worked at the Gustine Police Department, where he was a reserve police officer. He then went to the Merced County Sheriff's Office. We won't hold that against him either, where he worked as a SWAT medic for their tactical team. So pretty impressive. So as you can see, he brings a lot of training and experience to the Newman Police Department, and we're very pleased to have him on board. Congratulations.
Thanks, Chief.
Couple introductions of people tonight. His wife, Valerie Watts, is in the back. She is also a captain for CAL FIRE. Is that correct? His son, Dylan, is in the crowd. His daughter, Colby. His mother and father-in-law, which is Doris and Leroy Onstein. Some family friends would be Yvette and Richard Martin, and then the whole Hutchins family is back there to support him tonight. So with that, I'm going to ask you to come up front here, Eric, with me for the official swearing in and then badge pinning. We're going to go up here and face everybody out there. You're going to turn your back to the council members. Only time. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Richard Eric Watts,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without
without
any mental reservation
or purpose of
or
evasion,
purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
that I will and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
And who's going to pin your badge on you?
My son Dylan.
Dylan, you can come on. Feel free to tell me more allowance.
Good job.
And being that this isn't his first go-around in law enforcement, I couldn't do the 5-minute speech. He caught on to that, but he probably want to say thank you to a few people for showing us up.
Yeah, I'd like to thank my family and obviously the Hutchins family from way back when I first started. No one really in law enforcement would give me an opportunity until Don Hutchins was the chief of Newman. Of Gustine, and he gave me my opportunity in law enforcement, which got me where I'm at today. The support of the Hutchins family and my wife standing by me through all the pain and anguish of medic school and the police academy. Just like to thank everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Welcome.
Thanks.
So the room will probably be empty for a quick minute.
I'll give you a quick minute to vacate if you so desire to do so.
Stay for the entire meeting.
Are you gonna go have cookies?
Probably.
We never get cookies.
I'll talk to you later for you.
I mean, that's something not right about that.
Something's wrong. What's Doug say? It's wrong on so many different levels or something like
That's
that?
right. This is wrong at so many different levels.
You know, when you're the mayor and chief, you always get
Yeah. What gives here?
Okay. All right, let's get rolling again. We're going to go to item 7, items from the public, non-agenda items. Any member of the public wish to address the council, now is the time to do it. Seeing none, we'll go to item 8, consent calendar. A is waive all readings of ordinances and resolutions except by title. B is approval of the warrants. C is approval of the minutes of the October 11, 2011 meeting. D is adoption of resolution number 2011, next to number, a resolution supporting the extension of the Stanislaus County Library 1/8 sales tax. E is adopt resolution number 2011, next to number, a resolution authorizing the city manager and the director of public works to execute any agreements, all master agreements, program supplemental agreements, fund exchange agreements, fund transfer agreements, and any amendments thereto with the California Department of Transportation for the construction of a CNG fast fill fueling facility, CMAC, project for the fiscal year 2011-2012. F, adopt resolution number 2011, next in number, resolution authorizing the repair of the roof of the Newman Fire Department / West Stanislaus County Fire Protection District Station and authorizing budget adjustment of $20,000. Council?
Mr. Mayor, if I could please pull warrant numbers 100547 and 100633 to NSYNC Systems conflict of interest.
Okay, with the mentioned warrants being pulled, number 100547 and 100633, council action.
Make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
I second that motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Then we'll go to address items number 100547 and 100633. Motion?
Make a motion we approve those.
I second that motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Go to item 9, public hearings. Adopt resolution number 2011, next to number, resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4.
Evening again, Mayor and council members. Before you tonight is another abatement on a residence. Abatement notices were sent out to property owners with accordance to ordinance number 95-4, chapter 2, title 8-2-3. The notices inform property owners of their options, their right to object at a public hearing. It is anticipated that many of these property owners will clean up on their own and comply without coming to this step. Unfortunately, there's one address tonight that did not comply and was checked as of yesterday and is still in need of abatement. That address is 1905 Sydney Avenue. Our fiscal impact is none. The staff report will be submitted for council approval or consideration. And we have 3 pictures for you tonight. With that, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions on the chief before I open the public hearing? Seeing none, public hearing is open. Anybody wish to address the council regarding this issue? Seeing none, close it and bring it back to council for direction.
I'd like to make a motion, we adopt resolution number 2011, next in number, a resolution declaring the existence of a public nuisance under ordinance number 95-4 at the address on Sydney.
Second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, item 10, regular business. Adopt resolution number 2011, next to number, resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the city of Turlock, designated the city of Newman as a sub-recipient of home funds for fiscal year 2011-2012. Stephanie.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before you is the 2011-12 home sub-recipient agreement with the city of Turlock. City of Newman's been a part of the Stanislaus County City of Turlock Home Consortium since 2005. The attached agreement is necessary in order for us to receive our annual allocation of home funds. Home funds must be used for housing-related projects such as first-time home buyers, home rehabs, things of that sort. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt Resolution 2011 next in number, authorizing the City Manager to execute the sub-recipient agreement with the City of Turlock. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of Stephanie? Council direction.
I'll make a motion we adopt resolution number 2011, next number, a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the city of Turlock, designating the city of Newman as a sub-recipient of home funds for fiscal year 2011-2012.
I'll second that motion.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Stephanie. Item B is approve a contract amendment in the amount of $21,600 to the groundwater monitoring services agreement with Stantec Consulting Services Incorporated and authorize city manager to execute the agreement. Lance.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm here to present 10B, approving a contract amendment for the City of Newman Wastewater Treatment Plant groundwater monitoring services with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc. It is recommended that the City Council approve a contract amendment in the amount of $21,600 to the groundwater monitoring services agreement with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc., and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. Little background, the purpose of the original groundwater monitoring services agreement for the wastewater treatment plant was dated June 2008, and that was to develop a groundwater, wastewater, and surface water quality and elevation database and map templates. That was task one. In addition to that, the agreement covered the first 10 quarters of reporting to the regional board, and that was task 2. Amendment 1, dated March of this year, covers quarterly monitoring to the regional board from the first quarter of 2011 to the fourth quarter of 2013. And as you know, the city has purchased additional farmland for the disposal of the wastewater treatment plant's treated wastewater. Prior to the city applying our own treated wastewater to the land, the regional board has required that we install 2 additional monitoring wells to the, we already have 5 existing, so this will be 2 additional on the new farmland, on the new property. Furthermore, the city must obtain quarterly samples to develop a baseline of existing groundwater quality. The proposed monitoring wells are also a requirement of the ongoing wastewater treatment plant permit renewal process. On July 1st of 2008, the city entered into an agreement with Ecologic Engineering, now Stantec, in the amount of $20,900. On March 17th, 2011, Amendment 1 in the amount of $22,800 was enacted to continue quarterly reporting as per regional board requirements. Due to the purchase of the additional farmland and ongoing permit renewal negotiations with the regional board, the consultant is requesting a second amendment to the contract for the monitoring well installation and required reporting in the amount of $21,600. Included with the staff report is the contract amendment request. This is a budgeted item, and therefore no budget adjustment is required. This is a wastewater fund expense and not a general fund expense. So the fiscal impact for the contract amendment requested is $21,600 coming out of the sewer fund. The scope of work for the groundwater monitoring services agreement has increased due to the purchase of additional farmland and ongoing permit negotiations with the regional board. The consultant has requested an amendment to the contract in the amount of $21,600 to cover the additional work. Therefore, staff recommends City Council approve a contract amendment in the amount of $21,600 for the groundwater monitoring services agreement with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc., and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. If there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Questions of Lance? Okay, seeing none, bring it back council for direction.
I so move that we approve contract amendment for the City of Newman, WWTP Groundwater Monitoring Services with Stantec Consulting Service, Inc.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks,
you.
Lance. Okay, we go to item C, is adopt resolution number 2011, next in number resolution awarding the M Street Alley Sewer Line Replacement Project to MCI Engineering for an amount not to exceed $125,600. Garner.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. As you stated, the item before you tonight is to consider awarding a contract for the M Street Alley Sewer Line Replacement Project to MCI Engineering. The M Street Alley Sewer Line between Driscoll Avenue and Merced Street is approximately 80 years old, and it's a vitrified clay pipe that is experiencing some difficulties cleaning the line and keeping it flowing. Approximately 3 to 5 hours per week are spent maintaining the sewer line to prevent clogging and potential sewer overflows. In addition, the manholes have deteriorated. They're a brick manhole with mortar joints between them, and they're deteriorated to the point that we need to get in there and replace those as well. And this is a project that we have included in our draft capital improvement program, which we brought forth to council in the next few months. City advertised for bids for approximately 3 weeks. Bids were opened and received on October 27, 2011 at 2 p.m. A total of 7 qualifying bids were submitted for the project, with the engineer's estimate expecting a range of bids between $120,000 and $180,000. The lowest responsive bidder for this project has been determined to be MCI Engineering with a bid amount of $125,600. Included with your staff report is an abstract of those bids. The project is budgeted in the fiscal year 2011-2012 annual budget and is included in the sewer fund. It's not a general fund expenditure. Therefore, staff recommends City Council adopt a resolution awarding the bid for the M Street Alley Sewer Line Project, replacement project to MCI Engineering for a not to exceed amount of $125,600. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Questions of Garner?
What's the $200,000 number, Garner?
We estimated $200,000 for construction and design of the project, and potentially if we wanted to contract out the inspection services. So that was our budgeted line item. We came in at the bid came in at $125,600. We spent approximately $5,000 or $6,000 on design. We'll do in-house inspection to keep the cost down.
So we're looking at about 135 rather than
Roughly.
200, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
So when we do our budgets, we kind of estimate how much on a 50,000 foot view of what we think the project will cost for the whole project.
Any other questions? Council direction?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2011 next in number awarding the M Street Alley Sewer Line Replacement Project to MCI Engineering in an amount not to exceed $125,600.
I second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item D is adopt resolution 2011 next in number, resolution authorizing the purchase of one vehicle for the police department, administrative purposes, and authorizing a budget adjustment of $20,000.
Good evening, Mayor,
Lieutenant.
council members. We'll keep this going quick tonight. Before you is an item asking to authorize the purchase of one vehicle for police department administrative purposes. A little background, this vehicle that we currently have is a 2004 Chevrolet Impala. It has about 110,000 miles on it, and this vehicle is
It's
used.
getting broke in.
It's well worn. So this vehicle is used by myself to go to meetings and for emergency response to calls for service that require a supervisor to be there. They're also used for training and travel to meetings. This is the vehicle that's used for post-training where someone would have to travel to, let's say, the Bay Area or down south. They would use this vehicle for that, for travel. This vehicle has recently had some problems with its transmission. When it gets hot, it starts to shift hard. Drivability issues with stalling, electrical problems. As of late, the gas gauge has quit working, and turn signals work when they want to. Other things like that. So this vehicle, we thought it would make it another year, or another to the end of the fiscal year. It's probably not going to make that. A purchase of a new vehicle, there's several out there that we could still have some remaining factory warranty on them, and that would help us out if any repairs are needed for that. Staff had previously reported about the option of leasing vehicles. We talked with that and with the dealer, and it just probably wouldn't work out for our mission because the vehicle has to go back in good shape, and we can't control the people that are around our vehicles 100% of the time, and they end up with dents and scrapes, and we would be liable to make those vehicles whole again before we turn them back in. So the fiscal impact for this would not exceed $20,000, and this would come from capital repair and replacement. This would purchase the vehicle and outfit it with a siren, a red light, and some of the emergency equipment that we put on these vehicles. In conclusion, is submitted for council consideration and action. Staff recommends adoption of resolution number 2011 next in number, authorizing the purchase of one vehicle for police department administrative purposes. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Any idea what we can get for that car?
We can try and trade in. I don't know what it would really be worth. I looked at its private party value. It says around $4. This one's in pretty rough shape. Trade in, they'd probably offer us, I'd imagine, $600 or $800 for it.
You can put it on the highway for sale sign. People like to buy it.
You know, and it's 2 or 3 different shades of gold. So,
Is any thought been given to purchasing anything that might also be used as a mobile command vehicle rather than just a passenger vehicle?
we had thought about a mobile command vehicle, just the initial expense is higher for that. Like if you use an Expedition or a Tahoe, we're looking at $32,000 or so, then to outfit it with any command type equipment that, like the fire service uses in the rear, the chest with the radios and stuff. Like we're looking at close to $50,000 for that.
Maybe the Canine Association will donate that. Where'd Jason go?
I'm not hearing any takers for that.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Council direction?
I so move that we adopt resolution number 2011, next number, a resolution authorizing the purchase of one vehicle for police department administrative purposes.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Go to item E. Adopt resolution next number, a resolution authorizing the allocation of funding from the capital water, capital sewer, and public facility impact fees fund in the amount of $83,333 from each fund for improvements at the new city hall. Luke.
Evening, Mayor and Council members. On July 29th of this year, the city purchased what will become our new city hall. Over the last 3 months, staff has been meeting to discuss what improvements will be needed to make our building ready for day-to-day operations. We've met with several distributors and contractors from various construction trades and have toured other cities' facilities to gauge the cost of different levels of furnishings and equipment. The first step in preparing our new city hall is with the budget. Once we have a budget amount set, we can then begin making more firm choices on these improvements. Staff is requesting a budget adjustment to the capital sewer, capital water, and public facility impact funds in the amount listed on the staff report. Each of these funds is healthy and easily has sufficient ability to support this action. When staff approaches any purchase decision of $20,000 or greater, we will return to council for direction. Staff realizes that this new city hall is a representation of the residents of the city of Newman. When new people in our city walk down its streets or through our plaza and our parks and into our city hall to conduct business, we want them to know the good quality of life here in Newman. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of Lou? All right. Seeing none, council direction.
Make a motion we adopt resolution number 2011, next number, a resolution authorizing the allocation of funding from the capital water, capital sewer, and public facility impact fee funds in the amount of $83,333 from each fund for improvements to the new city hall.
I'll second that.
Decided for the total of $250,000 for the record.
Okay, that sounds good.
There's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item F, report of Stanislaus County Mayor's Agriculture Preservation Strategy Plan. Michael?
Thank you, Mayor. This item was previously presented to the City Council on September 27th, at which time you deferred that over to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission has subsequently met and looked at the general plan, the planning area boundaries, and has come up with a recommendation. And I'm going to go through that a little bit shortly. But first, again, I just want to kind of give a historical perspective. It's been a number of months. Stanislaus County's Mayor's Group has been discussing lots of different topics, but one in particular that has gained some traction is ag preservation. Led by Mayor Ridenauer from the city of Modesto, the mayors have all really been trying to figure out how to do a regional approach towards planning and shared resources in the countywide to help all the residents of Stanislaus County, as we are all residents, not just the residents of Newman, but residents of Stanislaus County. And if there's jobs created in one part of the county, our residents can go there and have those opportunities too, so it's good for all. As part of that, though, ag is a very large industry within our county. So there's an approach on how to move forward with preserving ag land for future generations, so that we know for a long time that ag will continue to be big business in Stanislaus County. One of the ideas that has now surfaced, and it started with the mayors, and then the mayors brought in the city managers, and the two groups talked, and then we brought in the planning directors, and everyone started talking. The idea now is each city would look at their general plans, look at their boundaries, and make some recommendations on what they believe could be their urban growth limits until the year 2050. For the next 40 years, what would be your urban growth boundaries? Meaning, we will not exceed these boundaries for growth in the next 40 years. What that does is it delineates where our urbanized areas are going to be within the county, and everything else at that point in time will then be ag preservation. The one caveat is to that is the cities have to get the county to agree to it, because the cities will set their boundaries, but as we know in the past, the county makes their own decisions on what goes on in those ag lands and what type of uses they believe are pertinent, such as a 2,800 acre business park in Crow's Landing. With that, so the Planning Commission went forward and made a recommendation. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through 4 different options, and then we'll talk about what the Planning Commission did. What I can say is, if nothing else, this mayor's group that has at least stirred up some conversations about what we can all do, not only on a local level, but on a county-wide level, what we can do for ag preservation. I thought when the Planning Commission came and had their hearing, I thought there was a lot of great discussion. There was a few members of the public showed up and also shared their thoughts. It actually led me to think of different options. So there's actually a couple options here that came out of the Planning Commission, and they didn't specifically call them out, but I think those conversations led me to believe in my planner background that these are viable options as well. So with that, I'm going to move on to the first one. So the one thing we started as planners started thinking about is, 40 years is a long time. So if you just look at these numbers, right now Newman's about 10,500 people. Okay, if we grew just 2% a year for the next 40 years, our population would be 22,730 in 2050. But you can see as we incrementally increase these ones, 2.5%, you're at 23.3. If you go up to 3%, which is only 1% more, you're up over 33,000. That's an 11,000 person difference in just 40 years. If you're up at 33.5%, you're at 40. 4%, you're closing in on 50. 4.5%, you're closing in on 60. And at 5%, you're at 70,000 people. Now, think about that. Newman at 70,000 people, that's Turlock size. So, what we do and decisions that we make over time really compound themselves. And that's really what you're showing here is, the power of compounding. And we all learned about that in economics and in business. You want to get your money in, you want to compound that interest. It's the same thing with growth rates here. When we did our general plan and subsequently did infrastructure master plans, water, sewer, we have to assume a growth rate. Lots of the discussion during the general plan process really talked about that. In the planner world, most agree that if you're between 3 and 4%, it's a pretty sustainable growth rate. You're going to increase your population is going to double in about 18 years. 18 to like 15, depending on where you're at in that range. It's very sustainable. You get economic growth. You're able to pay for services. Now this is 40 years here, so in 18 we'd double up, and then we'd get up again. So we'd be up at about 40,000, which is almost 3 times what we are now, 4 times if you think about it. So you double once, and then you double again. So you double to 22, and then you double to 40. But we based our general plan and we based our infrastructure on 3.5%. So at certain points in time, we as a council and as your staff, we have to continue to use basic assumptions. And you have to be consistent in your consumptions, or your plans really don't mesh. I mean, you're comparing apples to oranges. If one week you're only using a 2% growth rate, and the next week you're using a 5% growth rate. At some point in time, those two plans diverge, and they don't mesh very well. So for sake of conversation today, we're going to use 3.5% because those are the assumptions that we use in our general plan and in our master plans. Well, it just so happens that 3.5% gets you to about 40,000. That's the top end of full build out of our general plan. So the next map we're going to show here, Mike, go ahead. I'm sorry. I know I have it, but I don't like it. This is our general plan. For those who, are visiting today from the high school, planning is a very unique and inexact science. You're really an architect for a city. Instead of an individual building, planners really build cities or help plan cities. So as you can see here, this pinkish area in the middle, that's the city right now as we know it. And those are our city limit boundaries. Now, the color on the outside is what's called a sphere of influence. What we've decided as part of the general plan process that over the next 20 years, by 2030, this is the area that we're going to grow. Okay, if and when this area grows out, and this up here to the north, that's Stur Road. Down here, that's Sanchez, and I believe that's Draper in that area there. And then this is the county line. As you can see, we don't really go into Merced County. We keep everything in Stanislaus County. If we were to build out that whole area, it takes you to about depends on how many units you put to the acre, you're going to be in that area of 35,000 to 40,000 people in the city of Newman. So, and that goes back to that 3.5% growth rate. So, one people could look at option 1 here, and this is what we're going to call this. Option 1 would be if the council decided that our current sphere of influence on our general plan is a sufficient area for us to grow to until 2050. Now, keep in mind, our general plan is a 20-year document and it's Newman 2030. So you still have 20 more years after that you would have to account for. And then part of the pros is, we've already planned it out. We know where our neighborhoods are going to be. We know where the infrastructure is going to be. Those are all great. The bad part is, you really don't want to be building on your last acre as your time expires. You want to have some flexibility in there. If you're building on your last acre and it's 2045, can you imagine what the land prices are going to be around you? They're going to skyrocket and therefore drive your housing prices up. Also, you're kind of tying the hands of future councils and planning commissions on the next go around. You would have to anticipate around 2025, 2030, probably have to do a whole new general plan and really start looking at where our next growth of area is going to be. But as part of our general plan, we've added the city council, at the recommendation of the steering committee, added what's called our urban reserve area. Okay, go ahead, Mike. Now, the urban reserve area is a place that we added down in this corner here, and that would be like the southwest corner. Again, urban reserve kind of just says, if we kind of run out of space up here, we can build some more down in this area. And again, Draper and Sanchez, this is a CCID canal, and then coming across here on the bottom for those, that's the Newman Wasteway. So there are physical barriers out in the real world that kind of define that space, and this space over here. But if you look at that over here, really, if you think about it from a planner's perspective, that area is kind of earmarked for residential growth. If you're downtown and your highway corridor running through the middle of your town, you're not really going to put a Walmart over here with CCID and the Wasteway right next to you. There's really no way for cars to get in there. So again, this urban reserve area is really reserved more for kind of a residential growth area. But again, that's about 500 acres. Depending on the densities, if you do 5 units to the acre, that's about another 2,500 residential units, 2,600, or it could be up to 3,000, that's 6 units to the acre. So So that's option number 2. Option number 2, again, is our current SOI, and then you add in your urban reserve. So now we'll move on to option 3. Option 3, what we've done here, and this is these again come out of the great conversation that the Planning Commission had. Option 3 again takes you from Stir Road to the eastern edge. Again, the CCID Canal is on that side, and then it takes you up to the Lundy Road area, and it takes you all the way out, basically out to River Road, out to the river. It's a large area of land. I believe it's about 2,800 acres out there. What this does, and what I can, as a planner, what I could see is in the next general plan, the city may want to consider some of this area. And the reason I bring that up is Stir Road is a major artery into our town from I-5. And if you're going to do economic development and some form of development occurs at Crow's Landing Air Base, you probably want your business park to be on the northern side of town. Again, you got easy access out Stir, and you have easy access into Crow's Landing. So, and you have Highway 33 right there as well. So you have access to an interstate, and you have access to a California State Highway. You have a railroad spur. There's some real opportunities up in this area up here for some business park commercial development. Then if you look out in this area out over here, more toward the eastern side, again, you see a lot of residential out in this area, and you could probably come out and do some more residential out in that area. Again, that's about 2,800 acres, and we'll go through all the acreages at the end. One thing I want to show you is there's a common denominator here. As you can see, all of these have a common western boundary. That boundary is the CCID Canal. For those who participated with the general plan steering committee and all the workshops, there was a lot of conversation about that boundary. Should we use it as a physical boundary, because everything west of that is prime agricultural land. Very good soils, good drainage, and you really get a lot of quality crops grown out there. So, there was a lot of conversation about this little piece right here, Draper up to Stir. Do we even include that as part of our general plan? Some said yes, because they wanted Draper to come straight. Ultimately, the steering committee recommended to the council, and they agreed that we need to continue to use CCID as a buffer. Lastly, and the thing we need to think about is the Ora Stimba Flood Control Project. For those who don't know, the city of Newman flooded in 1995 and again in 1998. I wasn't here, but they tell me there was 1.5 feet, 2 feet of water downtown. Literally up to your knees, floating through the downtown. Big fish swimming through your downtown. We don't want that to happen again. We haven't, but thanks to the county's done an excellent job of working with the Army Corps of Engineers. Millions of dollars have been spent on how can we build a flood control to make sure that Newman doesn't flood in the future. Part of that program that's due out next year includes a berm along this inside the eastern edge, the Newman side of the CCID Canal here. What they're going to do is they're going to build a 6 to 8 foot berm, put plants and grasses on it, and then when the waters come up, that's supposed to hold the water out. And then that berm would also, we're not sure what the final destination is. It could be right up here at Lundy again. Build a berm across here and really direct all the water around the city, and it keeps the water from coming into the town. If we do that, then, as you can see, any lands that we do up here on the north, I'm going to call this the north planning area, or the northeast planning area boundary, is still protected because it's still all behind the boundaries. So that's why this one makes sense. Lastly, option number 4 is, as part of the general plan and as state law allows us, we drew a planning area boundary. What this boundary is I think this goes all the way out to Easton Road. And then it comes down to the Wasteway up here to Anderson, and then I think it comes back down to Lundy. What this does is it puts the county on notice that anything out in this area, we consider it part of Newman. I mean, there are houses out here. These people all probably go to our schools. They shop here. They use our post office. They're all part of Newman. Any development out here is going to have an impact on us. So we said that we're going to take a big swath. Anything in this area, we really want to be notified of what's going on over here. So originally, when the city manager, or the mayors, I'm sorry, asked the city manager to draw a line on a map, you know, we just drew this line right here and just said, okay, that's what we think City of Newman planning boundary. We think that's an appropriate 2050 plan. But at that time, we didn't know it was 2050 or if it was 2100. You didn't know if it was 50 years or 100 years. We didn't know if it was forever, or would we get an opportunity to look at this again. Some of those dynamics and parameters have now been set. We know that the mayors are thinking of it's a 40-year plan, so it's 2050. We know that after 2050, it's probably sunset, but it'll give the option for residents to evaluate and see if this plan has actually worked. Are we actually having ag preservation as part of this? They can re-vote on it again and those types of things. So again, we looked at all these 4 different options. Again, we started with the SOI, which is our general plan. We took the SOI and added urban reserve. That's plan number 2, option 2. Option 3, SOI, urban reserve, and then our north and east planning area. And then lastly, we have option number 4, which is our entire planning area boundary within Stanislaus County. Now, our complete general plan actually takes in this area here. If you follow the Wasteway and go north, or east, I'm sorry, that stuff's in Merced County. Doesn't make any sense on land, but it is. That's Merced County, and this isn't included as part of it because this is a Stanislaus County issue. So, hang on 1 second. Let me see what my next slide is. So as we go on, let me go ahead and hit the next slide. Currently, the city of Newman's about 1,050 acres. If we go back and we look at option 1, it's about 3,600 acres. Option 2 with the SOI and urban reserve, you're up to about 4,100 acres. Option 3, you get to almost 7,000 acres, and then option 4 is about almost 9,000 acres. There's 4 different options there. Now I'm going to go one more slide here. Again, so what we're really talking about again is ag preservation, right? This is a copy of a map that's generated by the Department of Conservation. And what it does is it shows you where all the quality farmland is. As you can see, this is the CCID canal comes down right here. Everything in the heavy green, as you can see up here, is prime farmland. So everything west here, west of the canal, is all prime ag land. If you look on north of Newman and moving east of Newman, we start getting to lesser quality soils. So if you're going to preserve ag land and you're going to you should develop on the areas that don't have the prime ag land or the high quality soils. So again, if we look at any of the plans and we go up north and then come out east, that's where the less quality soils are. And the steering committee took that into consideration. And the planning commission and city council all took these into consideration when they looked at our general plan. So if you look up here by Crow's Landing, boy, it's all prime up there. So with that, I think I'd like to just maybe have a conversation with the council. If we go back to it, and go ahead and go back, Mike. At this point in time, based upon the conversation the planning commission came back and recommended option number 4 here. And I think they did that because a lot of the comments came up with You know, Newman's done a good job of planning. I mean, you look at our downtown. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, you go to other communities, they don't have a downtown like Newman has. When Patterson was growing gangbusters, Newman didn't join in and add, 6,000, 8,000 people. We have not annexed land. The city of Newman has not annexed land since like 1999. It's been over a decade. Most people don't know that. So we've been good land stewards. We've made good local decisions. We haven't gone out and done a land grab and try to get as much as we can and grow as fast as we can. So we've made good decisions. That was one of the central things I think I heard at the Planning Commission was we want local control. We want to be able to control our own destiny. And it's a very valid point. Most communities do. And then when you even look at this mayor's growth strategy and you look at the map that's been generated by the county and you look at all the fine print on there, the county's doing the same thing. They're protecting their own interests. They want to just make all the decisions that benefit them as well. They want to preserve all their options because they want local control. So, you can't blame them for that. So even though the Planning Commission, they came back and they recommended option number 4, and I know that one of the commissioners is here, and I apologize because I didn't come up with the 4 option. We only really had the 2. After that conversation that they had at the Planning Commission level, staff has come back and looked at this. It would be our recommendation at this point in time to go with option number 3. Again, the reason is you have the Army Corps of Engineer project. So that's going to be all floodplain area anyways, when that project gets built. It does allow the city of Newman to build out at a growth rate, between 3 and 5% and be comfortable with it. It does allow us some flexibility in the future. I think it preserves economic development opportunities in the future because if, for whatever reason, West Park does, or Crow's Landing Air Base, whatever you want to call it, does become successful and we are beneficiaries of that, we're going to need economic development in our area. If we don't have this area up here to really expand, we may be putting ourselves in a box in the future and not be able to capture economic development and bring jobs to this community that we're so needed in a community of 20% unemployment. So by having this area up in here, I think we preserve a lot of that. I've talked a lot today, but that's kind of how staff has really discussed this thing and come up with these 4 different options, and now are recommending to you today option number 3 as a long-term viable option for growth boundaries. If this gets submitted, I think it preserves a lot of economic development opportunities for us in the future. I don't think it ties future council hands. But yet I think it does a job of, preserving ag land because we're not moving west of the canal. We're preserving all the prime ag land. If you go back, all this area up in here is all less than prime ag land anyways. So the soil is not the highest quality soil as part of it. So if you're going to develop, you want to develop on the lesser quality soils, and that's what we would be doing with this option. So with that, I can entertain any questions that the council may have at this time, or members of the public.
First of all, Mike, I'd just like to thank our Planning Commission. Senza is one of our Planning Commissioners, and Mrs. Lucas. I was at that meeting, and I fully did not anticipate a 2.5-hour meeting. They sliced it, diced it, cut it, looked at it, discussed it, and I was very happy that our Planning Commission really mulled over those maps and really had some great discussion. And like Michael said, out of all that discussion, he got to thinking, and he and I talked a little bit, and then Michael came up with 4 options for this council to take a look at. From the perspective of the mayor's group and the city managers and the planners, everybody kind of felt like they were kind of under the gun by LAFCO. So that's why some cities just chose just to do a big circle. Other cities have since, City of Waterford has adopted their map. For some reason, Patterson won't even discuss theirs. Oakdale, Houston, and Riverbank, I think, are still about to take their plans, I think, to their councils here soon. So, but out of that last discussion, that we had in Turlock, I come to find out that that I didn't know that some of the people from the land preservation groups are really not that concerned about what we're doing out on the west side, or really what any of the other cities are doing except for Modesto. That seems to be the focal point. The Denny Jackmans and some of the other people, they're really concerned about what's going on around Modesto. Because consequently, for me, my first response to them is, what do you care about what we do in Newman? It's none of your business. We think we're doing a good job of land preservation and ag mitigation, all those other kinds of things that are going on, and we haven't gone crazy. We've been diligent. And so I think this is just another example of diligence about not just focusing on one map, but focusing on 4 different options. And when Michael first presented this one to me, I liked the idea that we're using some of our natural boundaries, and we are looking at areas that aren't prime farmland. It's my hope that our supervisor will carry our thoughts and support some of our choices, where this council decides, and I agree with Michael. I think option 3 makes more sense. But I didn't want to take away from the hard work that our planning commission did on a couple weeks ago. So, any questions?
No, I just like to make a comment. Newman has been very cautious the way they planned their city, and the number of people involved in this community from all different facets of the community, and they spent a lot of time and effort coming up with our general plan. And I think this is consistent with our general plan, in that there's been a lot of thought given to the land use and how it should be used. So I'm extremely pleased. I don't think that Modesto could ever come up with something like this. There's no way. They couldn't come up with a plan like ours, because it looks like we can control our destiny better than most small towns. But I like it. I like it very much. I like option 3.
Michael, I know you were talking about that would be at the upper left-hand corner of this area as a commercial development. How about all the area east of that area that is still in that green section?
Yeah, and again, this is just me using, my old planner training. But again, with a highway and a railroad spur, here's Villa Minucha. Basically Villa Minucha this way, you could see that really being, and I don't know how many acres it is. That's 2,800. There's several hundred acres there, and you don't necessarily need it all, but that's business development over there. And then across the way here, you're probably, again, looking similar to what we did in our areas, neighborhoods. You really plan out a neighborhood now, 200 acres. You could chop this out 4 ways, develop four neighborhoods that interconnect, but are distinct in their own right. You have local schools where kids can walk to their elementary school or to their middle school and not have to be bussed in. There's parks centralized so everybody could go down there. I would envision, again, using the same master plan process for all that area up there, whether it's business park or whether it's residential or whether it's industrial. I would recommend that we continue with that master plan process, where you take a big area and you plan it all out instead of just doing a piece here and a piece here. That's really how you grow a nice, beautiful community.
On that far eastern area, on the very right-hand side of the map, aren't we getting right back into a floodplain again, though?
Yeah, and the reason we're out that far, council member, is that is the river. There is floodplain out there. So whatever you do out there, you're going to have to take that into consideration. I think the next general plan will evaluate all those unique circumstances that deal with this area up here, basically in the northeast corner of that planning area. I don't think we need to discuss those right now. I think that will work itself out. I think these young people in our meeting tonight will have those discussions in about 15 or 20 years.
I won't be around for it.
And it'll be lively discussions, and hopefully some of them may remember back to this meeting and say, "Wow, I do remember that one. They made good decisions back then." But you're right. There's some floodplain area over here. This land right here is right next to Lance's treatment plant, and he doesn't want houses there, and it is floodplain area there. But that doesn't mean there are areas that are in floodplains that turn into very nice parks, wetlands areas. They become part of your community. Water recharge. There's lots of different things that you can do with them. Everything doesn't have to be houses and commercial. There can be lots of parks. There can be lots of trailways. There can be lots of wetlands and people just going out there and just sitting down and watching the birds and little things like that. I mean, there's lots of things that can happen out there.
Golf course.
Golf course.
Yeah, let's get real.
Any other questions or comments? Any other thoughts on option 3 versus the others?
Well, if we're looking at 2050, I think we have to look big picture. I think we have to, 1 and 2 really narrow us down to it narrows us down to where we're going to be in 2030. I think a lot of it, of course, depends on whether that 3.5% really starts to pan out, because right now it's not.
And Councilman, you're right. Right now we're in a lull and you don't see much. But think about those that have been here on the west side. Remember the 90s and the late 90s, you had a big drop off and housing just pretty much just stopped. And then it dropped and it lay flat for a while. And then, the early to mid 2000s it started coming back up. I got here in 2003 and then, the housing, the bubble took off. And when you look over you have to look over a long period of time when you look at annual growth rates. You can't just take 1 or 2 years. You have to look at a decade or 2 decades and map the whole thing out, because that's really how you measure growth rates, is in decades, not individual years, because then you can look at it and there's plenty of communities that plan, oh man, we're growing at 6%, we're going to grow that forever, and now their budgets are whacked. And they don't have any money to provide police services and all the other things that are going on because they made assumptions that weren't sustainable over the long run. And again, that 3 to 4% or the 3.5% that our general plan and our master plans take into consideration, that's a very sustainable long-term area. We may get 6 one year, we may get 0 the next, but you know what? It averages out to 3. And so that's how you work out on. I think you have to look at it in a longer period of time.
Well, the last 20 years we've doubled.
Yeah.
And when I came here in 1990, we didn't have one stoplight. So you can just see the difference in the city of Newman in just 20 years.
And if you double, you're doing it at the 3 to 3.5% rate.
That's right.
And so from 90 to Bob till now, you've pretty much doubled, and
That's right.
and it wasn't something that just happened 1 year. It's a process, and it takes a long period of time.
Have we discussed this at all with the county, or are we looking to make our decision first before we do any talks with the county?
And the mayor can correct me, but this is really something that has come from the 9 countywide mayors working with, at first I believe it was Supervisor Grover, who did not seek re-election, and now it's Supervisor O'Brien. So the supervisors have representation as part of those meetings. I don't know if there's a majority of the supervisors that actually support this. I know there is I know the supervisors all support ag preservation. It's just a matter of whether they think that this is the right way to do it, or there are different ways. There's ag mitigation, where LAFCO says when you annex 1 acre, you have to buy 1 acre of easement and preserve that way. The bad thing with that is you can only preserve half your land. Because if it's 1 for 1, it's half your land. And it drives up development costs. So therefore, I mean, nobody eats those costs. Ultimately, those costs show up in houses somewhere down the line. And, you know, the people that are buying the houses, the next generation, you know, again, these young people that are in our audience today, you know, when they go to buy a house, they end up paying for it that way as well. So,
Michael, you're a planner. What would happen, let's say that we had a small area that we could grow in, and we got to the point that we couldn't go any farther? What do we do?
well, then you kind of stagnate.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you kind of stagnate yourself. What if, you know, what if we're, you know, we do build out and not even if we build out the whole thing. What if we just, you know, there's a lot of commercial up here and there's some industrial down in here. And what if, for instance, we just get lucky and, you know, some people do the Crow's Landing Air Base and it's very successful, and we just run out of commercial and land. How are we going to provide jobs to our residents if we can't go up into our next commercial area? You know, and you don't want to just stick commercial wherever you have land, because it may not be conducive to the people that are living in those neighborhoods. You really want to think it out, because there's transportation networks, there's infrastructure, there's public safety. You know, with commercial and business parks, you know, you tend to get big trucks coming in and out of those areas for deliveries and pickups, and, you know, customers coming in and out. That's really not cool. Really not something you want to place right in the middle of a neighborhood residential area. So I don't necessarily want it next to where I live, next door to that. So you got to plan those things out ahead of time. By doing this, I think we preserve those options in the future.
And I just want to add that this wasn't anything that I specifically said, well, this is what I want Newman to be. This all came out of just some of the discussions that when we meet as a group every month, you know, the mayors, we talk about a lot of different issues going in our communities, and we've had this big collaboration that we should work together as cities, and not fight against one another and do all these grabs for funds, and let's help each other out, yada yada yada. So out of a lot of these meetings, you know, when we started talking about our maps and ad mitigation, land preservation, and all those kinds of issues, then the seriousness of the talks became more aggressive, where we started talking about it more often, and we need to really take a look at a big picture. And then when we had the meeting in series, then the 50-year plan, or the year 2050, came out, and then we kind of expanded on that and built on that. So I think as a group, we all agreed that if somebody doesn't step up and start doing something, nothing's going to get done. And we really need to have, you know, some planning ahead for those that follow all of us when we're not here. And I do hope that future councils will look back and say, God, they did a great job. They planned, and they have an idea what and how things should be. Councils can come behind us or after us and change everything. You know, those guys are all screwed up, you know. But I'm hoping that we'll lay a good foundation, and so that's why I think it's prudent that we have not just one map we look at, but now we have 4 options, and this council can decide what our future is going to be.
And then, Mayor, just one last thing, and I made this analogy a lot when we were going through the general plan process, is we really have to look at ourselves as a community. We're sitting around, 10,500, If you put yourself in the development of an individual, we're getting into our preteen years. Those are important years in the development of us, because, the decisions you make as preteens, and whether you want to study hard, or whether you want to just go out and goof around and not do your homework, really make the determine later on in which colleges you go to, or able to get into, what degrees you can make, and some of the impacts you can make on your life. So a lot of the decisions that we're making now are going to have a larger impact on us when we're 20,000, 25,000. And in the communities that are really nice, you start looking at those and you start thinking about, what do I want to be when I grow up? But if Newman wanted to be a nicer community like that, you start that planning now and you stay on it. How long did it take for our downtown? 20 years. 20 years it's taken us to get to where we are at our downtown. The same thing's going to happen with the rest of it. The parks, the trails, the bicycle paths. All those things are going to come, but we have to have the plan and we have to stick to it. And so when people come in, we say, no, this is what we want our community to be. It's going to be a high quality lifestyle for the residents who choose to live here. That's what we need to do.
Well, the only thing that concerns me, and being out here for a few years, is that our draw, when we're looking 2.5%, 3.5%, our draw to a big degree was a commuter base from over the other side of the hill. So I think we actually went from a little over 12,000 down to 10.5, if I remember correctly, or somewhere in that vicinity.
No.
We
We
never
never did
really,
that.
we never
Never
really got up
happened.
that high. No.
Never happened.
Yeah.
How high did we get? I know it was more
10.
than
Yeah.
10.
We haven't gone backwards that much at all.
No.
We
if you look at the sign out there, it says 10,000.
we bordered right around 11,000 at one.
Yeah, I think we got up to 10,800.
10,140 is what it says on the sign.
I think we got to about 10.8, council member, and we're at about 10.5 right now. And even if you look at the school district, their numbers haven't really dropped significantly either.
Well, but what I'm saying is, what is our draw going to be for this
Quality
community?
of life. That's the whole thing. If you look at what this community has done over a period of time, and you look at your economic development strategy and the things we've been doing in our downtown, our draw is quality of life.
Absolutely.
You make a jewel, and you create a high quality life. People want to live here because it's a nice place to live. So in the end, we want them to take a look at the west side, and let's say a Fortune 500 company comes into West Park, and where are the executives going to live? We want them to look at Patterson. We want them to look at Newman. We want them to look at Gustine. And we want them to say there's only one choice. My wife's only going to let me live in one space, and that's Newman.
That's right.
That's why we have, in our general plan, that's why we have, 1/3, 1/2 acre lots out there on that boundary, because we want to attract those types of people in here. So quality of life, high quality schools that we want to work with the school district on and bring those things. That's our economic development engine, and we need to remain focused on that. It's not cheap housing, because that's not going to get you anywhere. What really gets you places is great parks, and in the end, business owners want to move their businesses to places where their employees want to live. And they want to live, and people want to live where there are great parks. People want to live where they can walk their neighborhoods. And people want to live where there's good schools.
Right.
That's our economic development strategy, as I see it moving forward. And if we continue to keep that as our focus, the jobs will come, the people will come. You just got to make sure that you don't lose focus on the quality and go for quantity. So, is it going to be a while? It might, yeah. But in the end, you're going to build something that's, again, don't be scared to spend a few extra dollars on quality, because in the end, you still have something. And people aren't going to just run away when the housing prices go down. So.
Are there any more questions or comments? I guess first, this council needs to decide if we want to continue, and should we participate in a countywide effort in this countywide effort of land mitigation, ag preservation, and do we as a council want to continue on this effort?
Well, I don't know if we need an emotion or a consensus, but I definitely believe we need to stay in.
Well, I think we need a consensus of one, if we want to continue to participate in the countywide effort for ag preservation land.
I think we all do.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And secondly, if we do, then we need a consensus on which map is preferable.
So the first map, again, just go through them real quickly for the council. Again, your current SOI as shown in your general plan. Your SOI and your urban reserve, again, the urban reserve is an area dictated by shown in the general plan, it's roughly 500 acres. Then you take half your planning area, basically the land east of the CCID canal, north of Stir Road and kind of south of Lundy, all the way out to the river. And then option 4 would be all the planning area boundary, the SOI within Stanislaus County. Because again, there is some planning area that goes into Merced County. And again, staff's recommendation at this point in time is option 3.
I think 3 is the most viable option, personally.
I agree.
Nick?
Sure. I mean, I'd like to see the reasons why the planning commission opted for 4.
Again, the planning commission opted for 4, and again, I apologize to the 2 commissioners here because I didn't give them the 4 options. A lot of these options came out based upon the discussion. The 2 options came out based upon the discussion is local control. And it was the bottom line is where it all came down to. It came down to local control. You know, they really only had the 2 options. They had this option, which is your SOI, and they had that option.
Okay.
And between those 2 options, they're right.
They picked the right one.
You take the one that gives you the most flexibility and the most control. Now, again, thanks to their great conversation, we were able to come up with 2 intermediate ones, which is again this one here and this one here. Would their recommendation come up a little bit different? It may have. I like to think maybe they would have when we start talking about the Corps of Engineer, the flood control project, but based upon the 2 options that were given to them, they made the right decision, which was the planning area boundary. And again, the key, every commissioner that supported this one and the members of the public, it all came down to local control. We need to control our own destiny. We cannot handcuff ourselves. And for the future, we cannot handcuff future residents nor future councils.
Sure. I'll go with the consensus, option 3.
I think one thing I was thinking 4 until you started talking about they're going to build an 8-foot berm along they're building a physical barrier between, if we went with 4, between us and if we actually plan something on the other side.
Correct.
Well, if you plant something on the other side and they build a berm, guess what's going to flood?
Correct.
So, I think we stick with option 3.
Stay on this side of the
Yeah, we'll stay on this side.
Bob?
With that being said, Mayor, I know our supervisors here, this is still going to be our planning area boundary. We still consider this part of Newman. And then right now there's a 400-acre gravel mining pit planned for this area right here. East Stir Road at Easton. 120-foot deep hole. So, with all the cement trucks and gravel coming through your town, so.
Magic, it disappeared. Okay, so with that discussion then, I would entertain a motion that this council approve option 3 as presented by the city manager.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. All right, thank you so much. Okay. We'll go to item 11. Item from District 5 Supervisor, Stanislaus County Supervisor Jim DeMartini.
Good evening, Mayor Caton, council members. The only thing I'd have tonight is a little update on the healthcare task force and what it's done. As you know, we've had the biggest laser contest. This year it was won by Patterson by actually a fairly wide margin this year. I don't know how they did it. But
Want me to say
it? Well, yeah, we checked off the names, so I don't know how they did it. But it started with the winner in Gustine, and then Newman, which is the school district, won it last year, and then Patterson. So every city has had a winner now. We had 90 people participate in this contest. So anyway, I brought the plaque down and to engrave the name in today. And so the task force is on to its ongoing projects of the calendar and essay contest. I came to the school district in Newman yesterday morning and picked up the entries for the contest, and then went to Patterson and picked those up. Tomorrow morning at Patterson City Hall, members of the task force, and you're welcome too, is Mr. Caton and Martina, if you want to. 8:30, we are going to judge these drawings. There's quite a few of them. Some of them are quite good too. Joe Oliveira from Gustine will pick up the entries from Gustine, and I already have them from Newman and Patterson. And so we will judge them tomorrow and make up a new contest, and then look at the essays and try and come up with some winners. And we will make every attempt, and I'm sure we will this year, to get the calendars printed a little bit sooner this year than we did last year. And I want to try and make the presentation to the Newman School Board on their meeting on December 12th this year, rather than doing it in January. They don't meet the last week of December because of Christmas, so I'm going to try and move it up a little bit so I can present the awards to the kids that did win this year rather than in January. So we're moving along pretty well. The packets have been mailed out for the next meeting, which will be on the 17th in Patterson at the Del Puerto boardroom, Healthcare District's boardroom. In the packet, we have designed some graphics, and we are have designed a letter of introduction and graphics, and what we've done for grant organizations that might do some funding for our program in the future. This is the second draft of it, and I think it's really quite well done. And it lists all the amount of people. It's about, we estimate that at least 6,000 people have participated in some sort of our programs or been touched by it in some way. Whether it's the art and essay contest, hikes and bikes for your life, the surveys that we've done, and the other programs that we've done for health and fitness. In addition to that, the task force has had a hand in increasing medical participation from actually our members, which is Emmanuel Hospital, Del Puerto Healthcare District, and Golden Valley too. All three of these have expanded their facilities considerably this year. I think we're all working together to try and bring better healthcare to the west side, as well as an awareness of health and fitness programs to keep you out of that doctor's office. So we're moving along quite well, and hopefully the calendar will be printed in about 2 weeks. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Item 12, items from the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few announcements. This coming Friday, City Hall will be closed in observance of Veterans Day. Next Thursday, our regularly scheduled planning commission meeting will be canceled due to lack of items. And then the following Tuesday, which is the 22nd, and the good thing these young people came today because our meeting on the 22nd is canceled. So those of your classmates that haven't come yet are going to be surprised that it's going to be hard for them to get a meeting in. The 23rd will be a furlough day, and then the 24th and 25th of November we will be closed for Thanksgiving. And December 3rd, I know our chamber president is here, and she didn't come up and speak, but I'd like to welcome and invite everybody to come to our annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony. That'll be downtown. I know the chamber is planning a great event, and again, Santa will be there, fire truck rides, ice skating ring, lots of events going on from 2 p.m. till 7 p.m., and that'll be in our new award-winning faucet. So, with that, RTIF, there's again, talking about regional approach to things. The cities have again been working for about a year now on a regional transportation fee. This all came about when the county raised their impact fees, and we're charging new development, whether it be in Newman or somewhere else, $500 million for a North County corridor. We didn't think that was a fair and equitable way. It's very hard for me to justify to a AutoZone that's developing in Newman how they're going to pay impact fees that go to a North County corridor on the other side of Salida. So we've taken an approach towards that, and we're having another meeting on Thursday, so hopefully that'll go. There's many, this ag preservation is one thing, regional transportation is another, infrastructure, revenue sharing, because as you know, tax dollars are thin these days, and how to best utilize the tax dollars to provide services to, and the most efficient way to provide services to the residents, not only this city, but this county. And we're trying to find new ways of doing that. So with that, I can answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Any questions of Michael?
Oh, I have a question, Michael. The new city hall, how's that progressing?
The new city hall is progressing pretty well. We meet every week. The Garner, Lou, Mike, and I meet every week to talk about where we're at. Tomorrow we're meeting with a potential designer for the city new chamber dais and staff areas over there, and help with the design of that. Also potentially a new counter for the new administrative part of it. We're pretty comfortable with the layout we've come up with for the administration portion of the big building up there for finance, where we're comfortable with the layout that we have there and some of the furniture that we've picked out. We haven't ordered it yet. Another guy wants to maybe show us his wares before we make a final decision on that. But things are moving forward, and we know we're under a gun, and we got 5 months, and we're working hard to meet that. And the whole thing again is the council chambers. We're trying to work on a parallel track with that. The guy came in. We showed him your dais here. Maybe a quick question or consensus is, do you like the way you sit right now? I mean, the shape of the dais, how it's kind of got a little curve to it. Does that work for you? Do you like to see more curve, or would you prefer to see something straight? I mean,
I like this.
You like it the way it is?
I'm comfortable
I'm very
with
like
it the way it is. Yeah.
You know, from staff's perspective, we see you up there, and the two council members on the end can kind of address the rest of the council without having to look way down, because it kind of has a little bit of curve to it there. I know there are places that we visited where the city manager sits up on the dais next to the mayor and the city attorney and all that. My preference would be to continue to remain here off to the side. It gives me a little bit better view of each of you as a council member. It also continues to keep me in place, knowing that I'm not an elected official, I'm still staff. And so, as staff, I'm here to serve you and provide you direction, but again, it allows that presentation to be better. On the other side, what you can probably envision is we'll have our department heads lined up on that side. Now, what that means is if Mike and I are on one side, you're up here, and your department heads are on the other side, you're not going to have anybody in the audience. But otherwise, we're working on that. We're probably working, each of you will have your own monitor, so you don't have to crink your head to look at a screen on the wall. You each have your own monitor right in front of you, so you can view whatever the presentations are. It'll make it a lot easier for the viewing pleasure. For the members of the public, instead of again having screens up there, we'll probably have large screens, plasmas up on the wall there. In the end run, it's a lot more efficient and economical just to go ahead and put those screens up there, and then people who want to watch have a better view up there do that. So it's all coming along well. We're going to keep you guys updated on where we're at with design and materials and those types of things.
Thank you.
That vendor that you and I spent time with up in San Francisco won't even give us the time of day now for whatever. Wouldn't even come.
Andy Nichols?
They tried to contact the guy that was all excited.
We talked to him and sent him some information, and they have yet to get back to us.
Well, we won't talk to him next time.
The good news is there's a business out of Modesto that's very good at audio video stuff. He's come in and actually done some pro bono work for us, with the understanding that if you ever have an opportunity later, I'd like to take a look at that. He did City of Madera, Chowchilla, Patterson. He's done a lot of council chambers, so he knows really about what it takes to have a good audio video system in place. We're going to pretty much plan when we build a new dais for all new technology on there. So there'll be lots of plugs and outlets for you guys, and probably places where you can even charge your cell phone or whatever you need to do up there, because that's kind of where technology is going. So we might as well embrace it and plan for it, because it's easier to plan for it now than to come back and try to modify and cut into things later. And do we know what all the technology is going to be? We don't. But if we plan for future stubs and extra data cables and phone systems and those types of things. The last thing I want to just mention is, at some point, the ultimate goal will be is if we ever need an EOC, Emergency Operations Center, your council chamber over there will be able to double as an EOC. So we'll have extra phone lines in. So if we needed 12 phones in there, we could bring in, just go get the offices, pull the phones out, plug them in, and potentially have 10 or 12 phones in one building. You have your two big screen TVs, you have data, you have all the rest. So we're trying to make it as flexible as possible. Yet in the meantime, we got to use our dollars efficiently and wisely. So.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Thanks, Michael. Staff? Oh, yes.
I just want to make a comment. I'd like to thank you all for giving the students a chance to observe the meeting. I think that they need to
go home and go to bed.
Typically, we're not here this late.
That's fine, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Okay, Chief, anything? Now you know how we feel. You don't have to say it. You can go home.
Thank you.
Good night.
Well, with the new addition to the police department is happy, but I got some really sad news is we're going to lose a member of our police department. Got word yesterday that K9 Odin is going to have to retire due to an injury. So he is done officially. I haven't seen the paperwork yet, but so it'll probably be official by the end of the week. He will no longer be in service. With that, the K9 unit has talked about purchasing a new dog, and you might see a new dog in the very near future come on board. Obviously there'll be some training with that, so it'll be some time before he hits the street. But we're excited of the new dog, but we were very sad about the loss of K9 Odin. Ronnie Singh is completed his field training program, and you'll see him out on the streets now by himself, which will allow us to do some additional coverage over probably on our peak times during the weekend, and he will be able to cover any shifts for vacations or illnesses that come up. And also, we've kicked off our second annual Tickets for Tots. So if you're going to get pulled over in the city of Newman, you hopefully get pulled over between November and December 1st. So you maybe be lucky and get one of those citations and donate for Toys for Tots is what it goes to. We donate all our toys to them. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
Great. Any questions of the chief? Thank you. Gardner, since you're standing up.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. A few items for you tonight. A couple of projects updates on those. The Main Street intersections project that's currently wrapping up. We have all the pavers laid. Now we're coming back and doing the punch list items for them. We're still trying to settle on the final look and colors. And I've been negotiating with the prime contractor on that to get it to the look that we're after. They're out there doing some punch list repairs. They damaged some of our concrete, and they're fixing that tonight, and they'll be doing that over this week. So we hope to wrap that project up this week. The M Street sewer line project.
Part of the on those intersections are the colors that are there in terms of the lettering. Is that what the finished product is?
The finished product will be the letters themselves will be darkened a little bit and sealed, so they'll stand out a little bit.
Okay,
quite a bit more.
That was one of the things I kind of been watching, and I've looked at from all different angles and everything, and that's one thing I would like to see is that lettering stand out a little bit more.
The Merced Street intersection letters are the worst. That's the first one they did, and the browns are way too dark. They're coming in. I was told tonight, but it's probably going to be tomorrow night to lighten that one, pull the dark ones out, put some lighter ones in. Then we're going to work on the Fresno intersection. Tulare turned out the best. They have some blending they have to do a little bit on the Merced Street as well. Once that's all completed, then we'll come back and we'll seal those letters and darken the street names up so they're quite a bit more visible.
Good.
The very first intersection they did, I was out there and ensured that they understood that I was not happy with the look.
Yeah.
And so we've been negotiating. They finally agreed that they did not provide the correct color as per the specifications on not the names, but on the field pavers. So it's been a negotiation process, and they've come around.
Good.
Put it that way. M Street Sewer Line project that you approved tonight, we'll be sending the contracts out for that project. We hope to start that project, given the weather, 3-4 weeks before we be under construction on that one. Should not take long. We really appreciate that project moving forward. A little update, Regional Water Quality Control Board, we're continuing working towards permit renewal for the wastewater plant. The monitoring wells project that you approved tonight goes a long ways towards that. They have several items that they asked us to do in order to consider approving an expanded permit, and that was one of them. The other part of it was an anti-degradation analysis, and we're working with our consultant on that. Sherman Park, we removed the old bark and put in the new bark, similar to the exact same coloration as we have in Pioneer Park and at the plaza. Looks really, really nice. If you haven't got a chance to look at that, go check that out. We're also going to be moving forward with some more. We're going to go finish up Borba Park. We're going to do that park and some landscape areas. We're moving that forward. City crews have been out striping our roadways and trying to get those ready before the fog season get here. I think we've pretty much wrapped that up now. Finished all the yellow striping and our crosswalks and some of our edge striping. And we have also been out doing our downtown decorations in preparation for our Christmas tree celebration. They're trying to get everything all wrapped up. The leaves should start falling off the trees here real soon. We'll be able to see our lights a little better. And another project that we're looking at as far as planning purposes is we're going to be reassessing all the downtown tree wells and the downtown trees so we can start thinning that and revitalizing those trees. And a lot of the tree wells since I've been here have become tripping hazards, and so we're going to be reevaluating that and coming up with a plan for that. So if there's any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Any questions, comments?
Put some fertilizer on that Christmas tree.
It grew.
Is it growing?
Yes, it's grown about a foot this year, in 1 year. It's starting to thicken out, but have you been talking? No. I'll put some fertilizer on it.
2050.
3.5% a year.
You ready to go with like a tree?
I'm
there?
pretty proud of our tree. Wait till we get her decorated. It's the Charlie Brown tree, but it's coming around.
It's ugly.
I don't think so. You think
you
it's
wouldn't hurt my
I
feelings?
don't think it's much
The only
of a
one I
tree.
had left.
I got bigger trees in my backyard.
Why don't you donate?
You're willing
Well,
to-
you've been there since 1990.
I think it looks good. Thanks, Garner.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Fertilizer.
Stephanie, anything?
I'm trying to do a lot of planning tonight, so.
Okay. Lou, anything? All right. Nick?
Nothing tonight.
Bob? Roberta?
I don't have anything.
Don?
Just one quick thing. How are we coming on the public works supervisor as far as the
Interviews tomorrow.
interviews are tomorrow?
I believe we have 9?
Seven.
Seven applicants.
Would it be possible to get, I guess we have to have a consensus of the council to get the numbers, get some numbers run on what that's gonna run as compared to if we, I think we're 2 positions that are frozen in the public works, advantages and disadvantages of bringing that person in.
Sure.
Well, I think the feeling is one is, you know, what would be a cost savings? You're asking what's it cost us for that position
Yeah.
a year? And I've had some discussion with Michael early on. One, just, you know, I know that 25% of it comes out of general fund, the other one comes out of the enterprise fund, the cost. A question that I had was that a position that we needed to fill right away? And when I posed that question to Michael, you know, could we be in a cost saving if we didn't fill that position right away? And was it an integral part position that we need to fill right away? And that was a question I had when that position first was announced it was going to be open.
I think you need to look at it as, you know, it's a pretty big department. There's a lot of different things that the Public Works Department does: streets, parks, water lines, sewer lines, storm drainage lines. You have basically infield supervisors, which are your, you know, Public Works supervisor or a senior guy, but you don't. You know, this is really your middle management position that helps coordinate all the teams. Now, you may have a captain of one team, you may have the captain of the streets that day, or the water department or the sewer department, but, you know, it's really, this is a position that coordinates all those teams together. Now, in the meantime, I have our public works director running 1,000 different directions. He doesn't have time to necessarily run his crews as well. So really, you're equating it to if you got your chief and then you got some corporals in the field, but you don't have anybody in between him. In the meantime, he's trying to go to Lex, he's trying to do policy updates, he's trying to do some things in between that really you need that middle management person for. And so that's why we felt it was important to continue to move forward with this position here. Again, getting a lot of making sure those teams are running efficiently, they're running their projects, the seniors are making sure they're getting all that done. It's not something that a department head would readily do because they're doing it at a different level. And again, our department head right now, you got him working on trying to expand your wastewater treatment plant, new water well, because we just did a test hole, storage tank. I got him running 1,000 different directions on, moving into a new building. There's a lot of projects out there, streets projects, parks projects. From my perspective as your city manager, I think it's a critical position, just like the LT is in our police department.
Any other comments? And again, for me, it was a cost savings. I'm just thinking, the physical responsibility of making sure that we're spending our money wisely, and if it would benefit us not to fill it for a while. And that was my first thought, is cost saving. If we could save money for a while, it would mean asking some other people to pick up a little bit extra load, whether it be Garner, assuming a little bit more on his plate, and senior guys that we have currently working to try to pick up some of that load as well. And that was my first thought, is if we have somebody retiring, okay, well, this might be a good opportunity for us to be able to have some cost saving. And again, and it was just, I wanted to throw it out, and that's why I talked to Michael about it, just to see if in fact, if this was a critical position that we need to fill right away.
Well, Ed, I'm thinking if it's something that Michael wants as far as a position, it should come before the council. And that's all I'm saying. It's a decision has to be made by the council. It can't be made by individuals.
You're right. And if this was a new position, we would do that. But this is the filling of an old position. If we had to come to you for the funding for a new position, from my perspective, we would have done that. We've never officially had a hiring freeze per se. We've held some positions through the budgetary process at this point in time. I mean, if it's council so desire and there's a consensus, well, anytime there's an open position, we can bring it back to you and ask for permission.
I don't have any problem.
It's been our position that if it's a budget item, and look, I'm not opposed to holding positions if I think there's a cost savings to us and we can get along with it. I just think at the stage of our organization and the makeup and the structure of it right now, we're pretty much at the bare bones level. I would be hard pressed right now to tell you that we could really afford to lose any positions in the city right now, even if at everything I'm looking at. I find it hard pressed, and in this particular case, your enterprise funds are paying for 75% of this one, so those are healthy funds anyways. So,
well, I guess for me, from my perspective, is granted we're not in a hiring freeze, but we've got frozen positions through the budgetary. So anytime a position comes open, I just personally think that it's something that council ought to look at as far as numbers. That's just my opinion.
Any other thoughts or comments? I think, and my whole thing is, I think it's prudent that this council, you're responsible for the expenditures that come out of this city, and make sure we spend our dollars wisely, and I think we've done a good job of that. And so, in my first thought was, would it be harmful or would it be beneficial if we didn't fill this position for a while? And could we get by, or would we hurt services if we didn't fill it? But I think, I thought it was worth the discussion to have. And obviously, take the recommendation of our city manager with a lot. I think we all have confidence, but I think we also are responsible for making sure that we're spending our money wisely. So that's why I thought it was worth having a discussion as well. So,
is it possible for somebody who's already there to be promoted internally and take over a little more duties than he has now?
well, I think we have qualified people that have applied for the position, and I'm assuming we have.
We only had one internal candidate that applied for the position, and they did not meet the minimum qualifications. So the ones that you think had the most experience and were most qualified elected not to fill out an application and submit for that position, therefore not wanting it.
That's disappointing, actually, but be as it may. So anyway, I understand what Don is saying, and I agree with part of it, and that's why I had some discussion with Michael, just for my own personal education, whether or not we need to do that. So I don't know what the rest of you feel.
I have no further comments.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm just, the only thing I'm saying, as a council, we have to make decisions. We don't make decisions individually as a mayor or a council member. It has to come from the council.
Well, I think that's why we're having that discussion, Bob.
But I know that, but there must have been a conversation with you and the city manager. What I'm saying is,
there was, and I merely posed the question.
well, that's fine, because it's
Yeah.
just a conversation.
Sure.
But I think if there's any action that's taken, it has to be come before the council.
Absolutely.
That's
And that's why it was mentioned tonight, whether this council wanted to have any input, whether there's any consideration, or was there any other thoughts along the same line.
I agree.
Mayor, if I may, I'll just jump in. We don't have that many openings. When one does come, I'll take it upon myself to make the council aware of any new openings and recruitments before they actually go out. I think that's what you're looking for, is before we actually go out and open up a recruitment, if we have somebody who elects to either elect or doesn't elect, but just, we have an opening, we will come back to the council and let you know that opening is available, and then talk to you about the pros and cons of that position, of filling it or not filling it.
Yeah, and that would be, I think that'd be beneficial. Only, if times were just really, really good, that, I probably would be a little bit less concerned than I am now when times are hard, and we're still looking at ways of bolstering our budgets and spending, trying to get by with a little bit less, and we're still looking at furloughs. We're still looking at ways to save money, and I just think it's prudent, that we look at it and take it all under consideration. And then when the day is done, if everybody says, hey, let's go ahead and let's fill it, let's do it, then all for it. That's why we live in a democracy. So anyway, so the consensus from this council, do you want any more information on this position, or you want just...
I'm fine with Michael making a decision as far as hiring this person. I think he stated in the future that he would bring it to the council for any additional employees. That works for me. Does that tie your hands, Michael?
No.
And I don't think this council looking to tie any hands. That's not the...
We don't have an issue with that.
Okay.
I mean, in this particular one, again.
Okay, so, Don, do you have anything else? I mean, you posed the question, so do you still want that information, or are you comfortable with going forward?
I'm comfortable with going forward. I share a lot of your same concern. Right now, we just have to be physically responsible for everything, and so, if it's a middle or upper level management position, and we talked about that. Well, when you talked about police lieutenant. Yeah, we made a police lieutenant, but we got rid of 2 police sergeants. So, I mean, you know, we did make a change there, but we also lowered some other responsibilities. So, in order to stay within that budget constraints, and so that's always been one of my concerns, is if we're going to do it, we need to find out how the whole picture is going to fit.
Okay, agreed. Any other? Anything else? Okay. Then I'm assuming that we're in agreement. Let's go ahead and we're going to continue on with this position. The city go forward with it. Okay. Great. If there's no other comments, questions, we are adjourned.